Hi, this is Emily Leiphart of Art from the Heart, and in this video I'll be creating a neat and tangled card using the fabulous MISTI stamping tool. All this week, the design team will be sharing inspiration featuring the MISTI. Some of the design team members are also giving away either their favorite stamp set or a $15 gift certificate to the Neat and Tangled store. You can also win a MISTI on the Neat and Tangled blog and a $100 gift certificate to Neat and Tangled on the MISTI blog. So be sure to visit all blogs and comment each day for your chance to win. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the MISTI stamping tool, but it's new to me, and now that I have it, I have no idea why I didn't have one till recently. It comes with a foam stamping pad and two really strong magnets to hold your stamping surface in place. The magnets will stick together if they get too close, and the important thing is not to try to pry them apart, but rather slide them apart. If you buy the complete MISTI kit, you'll get a grid notepad, but if you buy the MISTI on its own, you can still buy the notepad separately. I do use one most of the time to help me line up everything with the lid, but for the card I'm creating today, I won't be needing it. For the main part of my card, I'll be using Neat and Tangled's ornate frames, which involves 3-step stamping. The MISTI is particularly helpful for step stamping. I never seemed to enjoy step stamping before, and avoided stamp sets that involve this technique. However, now that I have the MISTI, step stamping has become quite addictive. I've grown to love it. If you followed Neat and Tangled's January release, you'll know that I use this set quite a bit. To start, I place the most solid stamp in place and use the lightest of the 3 shades. Before I had the MISTI, I wouldn't have been able to restamp an image if I didn't get an even inking the first time. This is what I love about the MISTI. I can re-ink an image, particularly a large solid image like this, frame-based many times until I'm satisfied. You'll see on the top frame that I missed a corner, and if I reapply ink just on that corner and stamp it again, it's fine. I never would have been able to do that just by using a block. I'll be using 2 of these frames and interlocking them, so you'll see me creating 2 of the exact same frames. The only variation will be the words I stamp on the top, and I'll go into more detail about that later. As you can see, the MISTI is so easy to use and wipes clean very quickly. In fact, I find it easier to bring my chamois to the cover than to wipe an acrylic block with the stamp on the chamois. Moving on to the second layer, now I use the medium shade to add more detail to the frames. As I go from lightest to darkest, the stamps have less stamping surface on them. The last one, which I stamp in the darkest of the 3 shades, has the least amount of detail on it, and it applies the shadow aspect to the image. That way the image looks 3D, as if there are actual raised edges on the frame. I've die cut 2 scrap frames to test how I'll be interlocking them. I need to know where to make the cut so I don't ruin the actual stamped frames by making a mistake. Before I cut them though, I want to add more detail in the form of words. I'll be using the blog planner stamp set for this because there are many tiny words to choose from and they fit nicely onto the frame. I don't use a planner, but I find myself drawn to planner stamps because they're so cute, so I'm showing you another way to use these types of stamps. The phrases and words I'm using include send pretty mail, make, create, today, and ideas. Using the scrap frames as a guide to which parts of each frame will be covered, I place the words fairly randomly around the frame. I'm using the medium shade of the oranges that I'll be using later for the main sentiment. This way the words will show up even on the darkest shade of the frame. The other great thing about using the MISTI is that you can stamp a cluster of individual stamps all at the same time, like I'm doing here, and stamp them a second time in the exact same spot if some of them don't stamp perfectly the first time. Here's a look at both of the completed frames. Now all I have to do is die cut them. Since I can see through the frame, it's super easy to line up the dies with the stamped images. I secure the die to the frames using washi tape and run it through my Big Shot. Using the scrap frames as a guide, I snip the part of one frame that will be hidden behind the other frame. Then I link them together and, using the grid mat as a guide, use micro glue dots to line them up, making sure that they're parallel. I place the interlocked frames on the card base and realize that I want a textured mat between the card base and the frames. I'm going to cut a piece of cardstock about 1/4 of an inch smaller than the card base and run it through my Big Shot with an embossing mat and the Seeing Stars die. Now I'm going to stamp and die cut 2 sentiments from the Painted Hello set from the most recent release. This also involves 3-step stamping, and this time I'll be using 3 shades of orange ink which will blend in with the yellow frames and the orange words on the frames. I do this using the exact same process as the frames. I use the lightest shade with the stamp that has the most surface area as a base. Then I build up the dimension with the medium shade and less surface area, finishing with the darkest shade and the stamp with the least surface area to create that shadow effect. After determining how I want the sentiment to sit on the frames, I can adhere all the pieces to the dry embossed panel. I pop up the frames with phone tape and trim off the excess. Then I secure the 2 hellos to the frames with micro glue dots. Now that all of the main elements are on the front panel, I can attach it to the card base. For this card, I think that not applying adhesive to the edges will look better. This will highlight the texture of the stars on the front panel. I feel that the card needs some shine or sparkle, and adding a few sequins would do just that. I use tweezers and multi-medium matte to place the sequins, which are 2 shades of orange and a light yellow. And now my card is done. Please refer to the supply links below if you're interested in any of the products I used in this video. You can also visit my blog for stills and more information about my card. Remember to visit the Neat Tangled blog, the MISTI blog, and the Design Team member blogs all week long for a chance to win. Thanks so much for watching!